at this point, we'll just go ahead and get started. So Ishmael is actually the host of this whole situation. I'm just kind of doing like an introduction and then he's going to take it from here. So first and foremost, I just want to thank everybody for taking part in this. This is kind of a new way we're doing the Open M.I.C series, just because for people like Daryl who are in Jersey. Hi, Jenna. Now I can see you.
Hi.
No, you're fine. So for people like Daryl who are in Jersey, I just really wanted to be able to like combine a lot of different groups of people. So we're trying this Zoom way of doing it, and Ishmael kindly agreed to be a host for this. And yeah, so the first topic is the tech advancements in the music industry. So I'm really excited to hear you guys' thoughts on it. The whole point of this show is to shed light on different issues in the industry. So mostly just having open conversations about the music industry, different topics that we'll have. So I guess without further ado, I'll hand it over to Ishmael and we can do introductions and then get right into the topics.
How y'all doing? My name is Ishmael. I'm a photographer here in Dayton, Ohio. I do a lot of work with a lot of the local artists here in Dayton, as well as across Ohio. So I'm excited to talk to y'all, see where everybody's from and get y'all perspective. So I'm gonna go down the list. You guys can give a brief introduction, talk a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you're excited about this conversation. So I'm gonna start with Jenna.
My name is Gina Perry. I'm originally from Oakland, California, represent Bay Area. A transplant here. I am a filmmaker and a writer. So I've been living in Dayton for about 4 years now. You guys are wild. And it's been nothing but love here. It's definitely the gym city. And I'm just glad that I can bring this Oakland love and support all my local peoples out here. So yeah.
Next, we're gonna go to Daryl.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Daryl. I'm in a band. My band's Last Cabal. We just dropped the album, 16 tracks for that ass. So make sure y'all go ahead and cop that. But I'm a rapper. I've been from New Jersey my whole life. I've been to other places. I've been trying to, build the area around here locally up. But I've been rapping since about 2010, and I met Tiffany a while ago, a couple projects ago, and just glad to be here.
Next, we got Trey.
Hey guys, I'm Trey. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I record, produce, make films too. Got one to play in the back. I'm just excited to talk about the topics. What's going on?
Okay, and next is Lamar.
My name is Lamar Toes from Dayton, Ohio. Rapper, producer, kind of, I do a little bit of both, I guess. But I'm real excited about this conversation because, this is actually up my alley. I'm actually a computer tech by day, rapper by night. So,
okay, we can go on to Jeremiah next.
Hi, my name's Jeremiah. Not born in Ohio, but I live in Akron, and I kind of met Tiffany through it was a gig merger event she had like right before the pandemic started, and just kind of went out there and just networked a little bit. And I'm excited to talk, I guess, about this topic just because it'll be interesting to hear other people's input on this. Because throughout the pandemic, I've been a little closed off and such, so just being able to just get into like a real conversational space that's not, I guess, based in like school or anything will be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And then lastly, we got Carrie.
My name's Carrie. I'm a musician. I play drums, percussion. My set's over that way. I played while I was waiting. So I'm in a new band up in Cleveland. It's a Motown group.
Teddy, right now we're going through introductions. So just introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and why you're excited about the conversation.
Okay, bro. I'm Teddy Ballgame 937. I'm a producer, artist out of Dayton, Ohio. I'm extremely passionate about music, and especially as it pertains to technology, which I credit for transitioning me from my passion and hobby of just making beats at home for pure joy as a means into a means of passive income, which is super cool to me. So that's why I'm excited to be part of this conversation. Thank you for having me, Gig Merge.
No problem. So I'm excited about this conversation because I actually work in social media and digital marketing. So I'm kind of looking forward to hearing you guys' perspective on the other end of it, to see kind of what works and what doesn't work. So to start it off, how do you feel social media, the internet streaming platforms, etc. Do you feel that they've been beneficial or harmful for artists in the music industry as a whole? Whoever wants to lead off can go ahead and start with that.
I strictly think it's beneficial, man. 100% beneficial. Just because the ease of which we can get ourselves out there nowadays. I'm from the tape and record era, literally, where you'd have to do a project and then get a distributor or get with a record company that would print you up millions or hundreds of thousands of records, albums, or tape cassettes. And that was always going to be kind of a tough challenge, or you'd have to go audition for Lear Cohen or Russell Simmons or one of those guys, L.A. Reid. That was kind of far-fetched. And the other alternative was to put your stuff out there on consignment at local record stores around the city, Omega and 14 Karat back in the day. And then hopefully people would catch on to it. So long story short, it puts the power in the artist's hands. So I think it's 100% positive.
True. No, I agree with you, Teddy. I think a lot. You know, I'm 30, so I started rapping about 10 years ago. So not as much as the tape era, but I know as much as the CDs and how hard it was, you know.
Sure.
I mean, the artist, I think it's better for the artist, but I think it in a turn, I think it's almost worse for the industry. Because the barrier of entry is a lot lower as an artist. You know what I'm saying? Like back then, even if you said, oh, I rap, if you wanted to rap, if you went to the studio and you messed up too many times, they kick you out. Now, the barrier of entry, it's better because now artists, anyone can be artists, but because anyone can be artists, the market is way more saturated now.
Sure, so,
absolutely. Like industry-wise, like for as an artist, I think it's better, but I think like as far as like industry-wise, it's just like it's really muddy. Like if we had the technology 10 years ago with the barrier of entry like it was 10 years ago,
sure.
You know what I mean?
Right. I feel you, man. And I think like with anything else, whether it's hoops or anything else, it's going to sort itself out. So yeah, say you may get the tryout, but if you can't, your sustainability is going to be based on your credence and what you actually are made of. You know what I mean? Your productivity. So if you're putting out that heat as a musician, you're going to be able to sustain a career. Yeah, anybody can get in, but the question is, can you stay and can you profit and make your art and your work profitable for you to make sense? So I hear from that perspective, sure, anybody can get in and it's saturated. But just speaking to that saturation point, I personally think that music, like shoes and anything else, fashion, it evolves and people constantly are craving something new. Correct. So the desire for it is there. It's just who's going to step up and feel, who's going to be the next Kanye, who's going to be the Drake. The beauty of it is we all can be in our own lane and there's no traffic in our own lane. So if you do your own thing and rock it out, sky's the limit for you. So that's why I say it's really positive and pretty much very self-empowering. But I get what you're saying about the saturation.
Yeah, I think it's like good and bad. In the beginning of the stream game, like more power came to the artist, but I feel like if it keeps going on, the industry is going to learn how to pimp it out. Like you're starting to see that in Spotify with Rap Caviar and all these playlists, dude. Big, radio companies are pushing it. Like big, labels are starting to learn what the artists were doing before. So now it's starting to become, kind of a scale.
Back to how it was.
Exactly. Like that's what's going to happen. It's going to be the same industry, the same, like they're going to learn how to keep it the same.
Sure.
I think that point is really interesting because it's like, things evolve with each other. So, an artist and being independent, that will evolve. They started with Spotify and streaming services, and now, the labels are catching up. And so it sort of like puts the onus on artists or like, music tech people to be like, okay, what's the next thing? How do we evolve out of their hands, the next time? And I think, part of the reason for this conversation is sort of like maybe to search for that or maybe get clues as to what'll be the next thing, what'll be a way that you can promote yourself independently outside of the cover of, major labels, playlists, major label this, stuff like that.
And there's probably going to be like 3 or 4 artists that learn how to find that new wave, like Soul, like how Soul Joe Boy came out. He had pimped out LimeWire and these streaming services. And what artists pretty much have to do is learn how to do the next step before the label learns how to do it. So you got to get them where you fit in.
Right.
I found this one lady on LinkedIn, and she told me about Clubhouse. This guy has this thing at 12 noon every day, And he mentioned something like you guys were saying that, I think it was TikTok or somewhere, where they can actually stop the music, or there's all these issues, and it's really good information to learn from. But for me right now, it's like I got to know my limits about learning and doing. So I have the income to live.
Sure.
So with everything you guys have been saying, do you feel like all the technology that artists and producers and A&Rs, people who want to get in the industry, have access to, do you feel as if record labels and record deals are still relevant? Are they still important into furthering your career as an artist?
100%.
Because you're not going to get any like radio play, which it doesn't matter as much, but you're not going to get any mainstream play without being signed. And the people who are big and who are unsigned are signed secretly. So you don't even know what's like going on half the time. Honestly.
I think, well, the first question is, it was just interesting to me how you framed this question and hearing the responses, because every time I hear a question about whether technology is beneficial or harmful, what I'm really hearing is how we consume media. Is that beneficial or harmful? So for me, I think it's like how you guys are saying, it's both. But when it comes to the relevancy of labels, I feel like they will always be relevant. Like you said, they will learn how to exploit and capitalize off of technology. Because I don't think technology is completely independent. Like the internet existed and people were still on record labels. It's just the way that we consume and the way that we give out the product. So now with social media, you don't necessarily need a label, but there are still resources that labels have, as in capital, that are going to be beneficial to you that you're just not going to have as an independent artist, just because we still live in a consumerist like culture. We are consumers. So I think as an artist, like I sing, but I'm not a singer, right? If I were to start my own album, I would feel like social media is my best friend. It's a little bit harder because you don't have the resources of a record label, but it's as much freedom as you're going to get exploiting your art, because we have to accept as artists that we're exploiting ourselves. When you put a record out, you're exploiting yourself, whether it's for a label or for yourself, you're still doing that. So I think like it'll always be relevant as long as we mass consume art.
I agree with her. Like she said, like social media, it can be beneficial and it can be harmful at times. But in the case of, kind of where we are, where it stands in, social media with especially our generation and music and stuff like that, kids are attached to their phones, people are attached to their phones, are attached to Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, the whole nine, so it again, like in an independent artist's hands, you'd be able to move a lot further than you were back in the day. With the amount of social media exposure that you can gain just based off algorithms and stuff that each social platform possesses in its own. It's like I have had videos blow up on TikTok before and have barely 20 followers, but it's just like the algorithms and stuff that they play into. You just got to find what works for you. But you will never truly be able to blow up as much as you would expect to if you did not have a record label behind you. And it's just because they have a pull on the industry that you will never be able to obtain as an independent artist. So I 100% agree with what she said.
Because I think it's the connection. Like people forget the other side of the industry. Like I may not rap, but I've worked for iHeartRadio, I've DJ'd, I've done interviews with rappers, not gonna name drop, but I've done a lot. So it's like that industry connection and networking, that's never gonna go out of style.
Now,
right?
It plays a humongous part.
Exactly. So they gatekeep that. That's why it's like, yeah, you can blow up on social media, but if you don't know nobody in the industry, if nobody's vouching for you, if nobody's saying, oh yeah, such and such, they got vocals or they got bars or what have you, you're only going to be able to go so far.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think social media, the harmful effect is the effect of just how, like the typical stuff that you would even go through an industry, like changing your look or changing your sound to stay trendy it's still the same problems, just in a different format.
Yep.
And I think it's just even worse now just because of how many people have access to you, right? Like Back in the day, you just had the paparazzi. Now millions of people can replay a video all the time of you. They literally own an image of you at any time. So it's kind of like the benefits and the harm of being an artist on social media. You got to be really careful, got to toe the line.
So you just hit on something I wanted to kind of ask to kind of further the question a little bit. So what does the relationship look like for an artist today with the label, given the access that you kind of already have? Because essentially what you guys are saying, like, the labels are still always gonna essentially run the industry. They're gonna have that control. So what does the relationship look like if essentially they're creating, even though you guys all do have your own platforms, what does it look like when essentially it's still pay to play? Like, to get on some of these playlists costs money. To work with a lot of these artists, the features cost money. You might get a feature from an artist that they sent out to 10 people, and now it's whoever's song goes out first is the person who got that sample first or that verse first. So how does the relationship change now with social media?
I think that falls directly in line with like who you have on your team. And the reason I say that is because it's like each label has their own independent team. You got people who check emails, you got people who reach out, you got people who pull in new connects and stuff like that. So I feel like it falls directly with who you have besides you and how quick they gonna move to make sure that it gets done, in that movement. And again, that again ties into kind of like social media and stuff. A lot of these big name rappers, artists and stuff like that who are signed to labels, they have social media management. They have people who literally watch their social media. Sure, they may have them on their phone too, but they have people who watch their social medias. They have people who check their DMs and go through all of this stuff to make sure, hey, you just got a DM from such and such, he wants you on this, that, and the third. And, and at the end of the day, it's that artist's word to say either, yay or nay. But, whereas you got independent people like us, who have never, touched a label, who had to do it all on their own. And, some people have jobs and stuff like that where they don't have the ability to look at their phone and stuff every day. Or, we don't have somebody that's, looking at your social media constantly to see what's going on as far as like, who's DM'd you or who's reached out or who's emailed you and stuff like that. So I feel like, again, the label kind of gets a one up in the situation of you have more people to back you up and actually take time to look into these things where, independent people would.
I think another angle, another look on that might be it creates, on a positive side from the artist standpoint, it creates more leverage coming into a situation with in regards to the relationship between the record label and the artist, meaning that we can gain so much ground independently, and then we can come to a record label and kind of play both sides against the middle and say, look here, man, I've gotten us 75% of the way here with just my internet savvy, my social media savvy. The people are checking for me. We as artists, depending on what distributor you're with, and even on sites like Social Blade, you can run your numbers anytime you want to. So you can come here and say, I just need you guys to launch me into the other stratosphere. So which one of you, Def Jam, Sony, Atlantic, is going to be the one? So you can kind of create a bidding war, much like a Zion Williamson can do with Nike, Adidas, or Puma coming out of college. You see what I'm saying? So you can actually, I think we have more leverage a little bit nowadays, as opposed to getting dictated all the terms to us. We already come as an established entity, and we want to, it's more like a merger, a strong corporate merger, in my opinion. That's how I would look at it.
I mean, yeah, that's how it normally is, because you don't see really no-name people get signed because it's a big, money risk. Art, like, labels look for people with big followings because it's all a numbers game. I mean, that's all they care about.
Right.
And, you're pretty much, but at the end of the day, you still need their help, like, no matter what.
Sure.
Yeah, like it's tough to do it with without, and just as far as like the ideology and how things have gone, even like nowadays, I think there's a split of artists that kind of look at it like, oh, I need a label, and you have independent artists like ourselves that may be seasoned, in the game, learning that, it's all about leverage, it's all about what you bring to the table and being an asset. And I think going back to what Gina and Lamar was saying earlier, it's all, I feel like, although there are trends and there are, things that tilt the scale like technology and other things, I feel as though it's more situational depending on who you are. So being that you're an independent artist or you're able to, do as much as you can as an artist, that can, like you said, that 75, like you said, Teddy, that 75, 25. But also with technology, you can cover a lot of ground as an independent artist so quick as well. So it kind of all balances into each other though. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Also interesting. I just had a thought based on what you guys just said. Talking about how the independent game can kind of help you create your leverage and stuff. And I honestly, I'm thinking that it could end up to where like how people were talking about the bidding wars. How most major label artists get to the point where they're hot enough to create a bidding war between labels and turn like their contracts. But I think that if independency continues to grow the way it is, it could just end up being like contracts, bidding wars over specific albums. So you have this, like, let's say you're an artist like Drake, you've already done your contract, you're good, that what you put out is going to make somebody millies, so you already know, hey, I'm here delivering millies to you. Which label is going to wants it the most? Which label is going to promote me the best, get the most millies? So he could make it to the point where it's like, all right, I got Certified Lover Boy, let's see who wants it. Have a listening party for all the labels, and then they all fighting over it, and he's just sitting back independent. So I think that could be the end goal of what an independent artist could do. But you might just have to, just like work, you might just have to serve your time inside of the label before you can get to that point.
Yeah, I was just about to make that point. I'm like, at one point in life, Drake was, a part of a label before he got to that point where he could, shop his stuff around. He was part of YMCMB, just like Wayne was, just like Nicki was. Now both of these, both of those artists as well are kind of at that peak where it's like they could shop their next album to any label they wanted to and all make money. So it's like, you made that point. You still got to start somewhere, and that it still starts with that label. It still starts with that label. Sadly, independent, yeah, but it's still got to go through that label at one point in time.
Yeah. You know who's a good example of an independent artist that got a label behind him? Macklemore. Because Grip Shot, he was independent for a Grip, and then he got the label behind him, and then look what happened. He had like the biggest song in the world.
Yeah, you got a point.
Then he went back independent.
So do you foresee a time where these platforms are going to be the new record labels? Because even like with Drake, like how y'all were saying, Drake is still, he kind of does his own thing with OVO, but at the same time, he has that big backing from Apple. For a long time, Kanye West wanted that backing from Apple. Chance the Rapper had that backing from Apple, where he was still independent, but still was able to put out that project that blew up because he just has such a big platform supporting him. So do y'all see like Spotify, even Instagram, maybe someday becoming a platform that pushes artists that they decide, you know what, we want to work with this person?
Yeah, I could see it.
You already see it now. YouTube got Lear Cohen above their like music department. That's the future. And Instagram, Apple, and stuff, they only promote people that they want to promote. It is kind of like Netflix making their own films and promoting that.
I think it's going to get even one step further. I think like corporations are going to start owning artists. Like, you're Forever 20. Well, they're on Forever 20. H&M, you want to come be an artist? We'll promote you. We'll put you on all. Like, what if corporations themselves started doing that individually, like McDonald's or something? Like, you're our artist. We got billions of dollars anyway. We could promote you wherever. Like, I think that could probably be like something that could happen sooner than later. Fashion Nova,
like a corporate recording artist. That's so wild.
But it could happen.
I always, because as a struggling filmmaker, it's always about cost, right? And so Instagram, we think because they have all this money and all this reach that, they might do that. But there's a reason why Apple didn't hop on to Apple TV till they saw the numbers of how Netflix and Hulu and Prime were doing, because you still need capital. If you're gonna back an artist, that's how what did you say? Marketing, now you need a studio, now you gotta pay people. So you maybe bring on an artist, but is that artist going to create enough revenue to cover the cost and the expenses and the operating costs, pretty much, of what it is to be a management company? Because Instagram, if they were, I'm just going to use them for example, because they'll probably be the first to even transition into that, or TikTok, really. You still need an immense amount of capital, and then you have to basically rebrand your company to basically step into that industry. You're an industry with giants, NBC, Apple, you know what I mean? Like these people, Clear Channel owns what, like 80%, like 90% of the industry. So it's like you're coming up with guys who've been in this industry for decades. So I think the most realistic within like 5 or 6 years is more so like how football players are like free agents type of deal, where I think if artists are smart enough to own the rights to their music and own the rights to what they're writing, and then kind of be like, yo, I'm a free agent, I'm not on label, but like how you guys said, we have that kind of independent contractor deal going on where I have this album, I got this following. So if you guys, you know, promote my page in your algorithms pretty much, then I'll put out your brand. You know what I mean? It'll be more of like, I'm the face of your brand type of deal, more like makeup and beauty, how they'll use like Rihanna or a famous person to be that face. But I don't think it'll be some time for that type of transition, just because like the amount of capital it would take. From a corporate standpoint, if I was thinking about money, I wouldn't go that route because it's already saturated with other companies who do it better. So it would be smarter if Instagram would then own like Spotify, right? They would end up buying out. So I see more so like giants like buying out these companies and owning it than being like, let's start our own. So
one of the things when I took this Corsia course from Berkeley College of Music, they talked about what you're talking about, where I don't know if you saw it, but they talk about partnerships with like all of us as artists. At least that's my head. Like the different, like you're saying, the different jewelry or hair, you know, to partner with them. So as independent artists, we can be stronger for what we're trying to pursue for our music career. So I mean, that's a good course. I mean, it's only like 4 or 5 weeks, but it's called, I call it Corsia, and it's from Berkeley.
Okay.
It was like $26, but you know, it's good. It's good knowledge to help to learn how to be an artist. I did that. I was doing that for my project, my jazz project.
Jeremiah, were you about to say something before I move to the next question?
Yeah, it was to Jenna's point, you know, about talking about, you know, the money and I guess the capital required for it. And so maybe it wouldn't necessarily, I guess my whole thing, the only thing I thought of in response to that was the whole, how people have been doing like these AI songs, you know, like I've seen something floating around of like an AI Travis Scott song, how they just like analyze his stuff.
Oh yeah,
you know, just recreated it and it sounded like Travis Scott. You know, obviously some people are like, this is the end of music. Some people are like, oh, this is fire. You know, I'm listening to robots. So I think they could, in terms of reducing capital, because, you know, McDonald's has already like, you know, taken out some like cashiers, replaced it with screens. I could see them like if they wanted to go in that route, because that would reduce some of the startup costs necessary, having to deal with people, having to deal with reporting, all that stuff. So, you know, like AI music could be the future, maybe just in terms of like businesses advertising real corporate style stuff.
That's a good,
you're right.
That's a good legal loophole too. With copyrights, they can kind of skirt that, you know, because when you're sampling beats, you know what I mean? Like if you don't get the clearance, we saw what happened with Frank Ocean when he didn't get burned because he released it on SoundCloud. So he wasn't making no money off of it when he sampled, I think it was American, from the Eagles, I think. So the fact that they're able to do this AI, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That would definitely be a legal loophole though, because the law is not caught up with that. Like, is it technically stealing if it's not a human person doing it? Right. You know, like the deep fakes and stuff, you know, except for a deep fake song. And you just reminded me of another point. I don't know if y'all remember when it was Wendy's. They had put out that burger album.
Oh, the mixtape.
Yes, the burger mixtape, and people was rocking with it. People was rocking with it, you know. So I remember they did it with some like Twitter comedians. I swear it was the dude who did like he was like, you know, the peace sign. He disappeared with that Next Door sample. So like I think he was on it and stuff. So you know they didn't use official artists because you know they would have taxed the hell out of them. But if imagine if they'll do some AI stuff and put it out like the Wendy's did the mixtape, bro, that would blow open the whole gates.
Yeah, there's actually a popular game online. They made a girl like group and they got like 150 million views. Like AI is the future because then they can hire guys like me and you to do a song and be known as something else. And if we piss them off, they can hire someone else and call it that person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a way to get
That
more
might be
power.
something for the conspiracy theory conversation because y'all just reminded me there's like a whole digital model they made. Somebody on Instagram named like Young Michaela or something like that. She's literally just a 3D person that like Forever 21, H&M, Rue 21, like send her clothes to put on in her pictures on Instagram. Has like 2 million followers. So yeah, it's a lot they can do with the AI stuff. So that would be a good point to come back to. But moving forward in the conversation, so moving away from the industry itself, as independent artists, do you feel that technology is creating healthy competition among independent artists? Is it allowing you guys to kind of come together and collaborate more? Or is it just showing how oversaturated the industry can be?
I think it's all three. It's all three. I mean, we're able to collab easier. We're able to see each other go, and that pushes other people. But then you.
So what about specifically like in your city? Like some of y'all from Dayton, we got Philly here. So like, what do you feel like it is for Dayton, Philly, or like the different areas? Maybe you work with different artists. How do you feel like technology is affecting that?
It just shows like who's like the hottest artist, and normally the hottest artist, whoever thinks we're cool, is just pushed around, and like everybody's followers because it's social media. So it's pretty much who's ever like the hottest person in town. Everybody's gonna share, which it's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but I think every small town's like that. There's always going to be that one guy that people love, and everybody's going to go towards that guy, and everybody else is just battling for that spot in a healthy way.
Yeah, I can definitely say like I've made a lot of friends and a lot of connections through music, based off of just like social media stuff. Like a lot of the people that I work with now, I met them through social media. Had never heard of this person ever a day before in my life, but you post something and everybody be like, oh, well, I think you sound good if you and Blase hop on a track together. And like, of course you're gonna look into it because hey, they follower base is bigger than yours. And if you get on the song with them, hey, maybe it might just boost yours a little bit. I'm not gonna say I'm guilty of it, but I've done it a couple times. Like I've tried to promote myself using other people's music and stuff like that. But like it definitely in the city of Dayton, you usually will, kind of stick to the person that has like the biggest following. And I don't know who it is right now, but I could name a couple people who I know I always see kind of like floating across people's Insta stories or Snapchats, Twitter posts. And like there's a couple people around here who got some traction, and I hope make it out of here one day. So
yeah, for sure.
I think as far as like me personally, I'm from New Jersey. So like as far as being an artist, it's kind of like how you guys have it, like more popular artists and less popular artists, whatever the case is. As far as like working out like with other artists, I've worked with artists from all across the world. And it's just been cool just to work and just meet on like I would not have met you unless it wasn't through social media. So now we can come together and create art. That's always my biggest thing, just try and make the best possible with what I got. But oversaturation, I mean, the game it's just everyone wants to be a rapper. It's like if everyone wants to be a basketball player too, or everyone, but it's like it's hard. There's a barrier of entry in the NBA. You can't just want to make the NBA. You got barriers of entry with the music and how everything is now. It's the barrier of entry so low. So yeah, there's always oversaturation. But I mean, as far as competition, not really, because I feel like there's a separation sometimes. Like certain artists be like, oh well, if he's in this lane, I'm in this lane. There's competition, not really a thing. If you stay,
I agree with him on that one. Like every artist got their own respective, their own respective sound. And I honestly feel like there are skill gaps as far as like what your abilities are when it comes to music, and it will literally separate, the people that are in the game. Like you have people who can freestyle, you have people who can't, you have people who can, genuinely rap like J. Cole or Kendrick. And then you have people who make music for, just for club stuff. Like a lot of the stuff we hear now, like I feel like there are genuinely, gaps as far as skill you know, and that is what kind of creates that separation. I don't feel like there's ever really a true competition, because there's so many different sounds, there's so many different lanes that you can take to get into the game, whether it be singing, whether it be, you know, rapping. I mean, honestly, I've even seen a lot of people who do just strictly poetry somehow make it into you know, the game. So yeah, I wouldn't say competition 100%, but I'd definitely say it's different routes you can take to get there.
To your point, I definitely agree that there's like not as much of a competitive focus. Like, I don't know, music is one of those industries to where, you know, whatever competition would normally be there can ultimately turn into collaboration without it being, you know, too much of a hassle, or, you know, too legal mumbo jumbo-ish. The only genre, like I would say, probably would be like, you know, hip hop, you know, especially if you come from a battle rap standpoint, you know, you're gonna have that, all right, if I'm on a song with this dude, you know, it's competition. I gotta make sure I have the hottest bars, you know, that type of stuff. But as a whole, I think it's pretty okay. The other thing I was gonna say was, I think that with the independence, or with the growth of independence, there's like sort of like a natural barrier of entry that is sort of created, to where it's like, it's almost like I think I see it as like a mix of, like you were saying before, Lamar, you know, like talent, but also who is the best self-promoter. And so the only real negative I see about this social media stuff is that it sort of creates a focus on, you know, people who are the biggest self-promoters or clout chasers, and not necessarily the ones who are the best talent. But for that reason, you know, you see them spike real hard and then fall off because they don't have the talent. So you'll see all those like little, like almost like people say, popcorn artists, all that stuff over time. Mm-hmm. You know, when you finally find someone who has that right mix of, like, you know, natural talent and can self-promote to the best ability, I think, you know, the social media age is just giving us the biggest platform to do that of our time so far. And I even heard the same thing from I guess 2 years ago. I had went to Camp Flognaw, and when I literally saw them boo Drake, you know, and it was like, wow, but whatever. You know, but I met one of the guys from Boyz II Men there, and he was saying like the same thing about, you know, how, you know, before, how we had to really get in the studios and, you know, meet with all these people, and he's like, now you just put out a banger, you know, and, you know, provided that you have enough of a following, provided you can get yourself going, you can do that. And he seemed so very, very envious of people being able to do that today, you know. And it's crazy talking to like a literal legend, you know, and having him like give that insight. So I think it's you know, it, like I said, overall a good thing, but that natural barrier of that natural barrier entry, I think, is really promotion based and not necessarily talent based.
It's interesting that the one thing about healthy because it said healthy competition. Mm-hmm. I feel like humans, we're just naturally competitive. I know I am. I'm just not a sore loser, but I want to be the best at my craft. So if you're the type of artist who wants to be the best at their craft, you're going to be innately competitive to begin with. Not to the point where you're going to the realm of animosity and kind of like how you said, not collaboration. But I feel like we all want to be the best, whether we're humble about it or not. And it's interesting when you say oversaturation, because with social media, I don't think oversaturation will ever be a thing, because there's so many people now to how much content, so it balances out. So everybody can have a lane now because there's more people looking for different things, and not everybody likes the same thing. But I also want to bring up the fact that he's envious, yes, because he had to do less tap dancing to these white executives, right? We have to do less, hey, pick me, pick me, pick me. So that the industry forcing artists to be competitive amongst themselves has dissipated. However, exploiting Black culture has not. And when you look at social media, especially on TikTok, you know, Black girls not getting their due justice, creating literally dance crazes that your grandma doing. You know what I mean? It's this idea that is less competition, sure, and we can all be collaborative, sure, but understand that to some degree that I guess that I don't think competitiveness is a good word, but us always having to fight, I guess, to make sure that we're seen and make sure we get our due justice. that's always going to kind of be a struggle if we continue to create art for money. But it's just interesting because it's like a lot of artists online will get their stuff stolen. So it's like you're going to naturally want to be kind of like the top, because then you can be like, no, I created this. And the visibility is I'm rooted to the original creation, right? If you're not seen and you create something that goes viral and don't nobody know who you are, you're not going to get the credit. So I think this idea of wanting to be first is less about, like how you guys are saying, talent, and more so just like, I need to be the credited first, because the information is so fast, and social media is a shorter attention span. So if you don't capitalize on the content you're putting out, and somebody steals it and gets to it and kind of takes do their thing, you're gonna be solved. So I just wanted to bring that up because that is a thing about stealing Black content on these platforms.
If social media didn't exist, what would your growth strategy be as an independent artist?
You catch me at every poetry night, poetry slam. You catch me at every open mic, every open show, everywhere. You know, like you gotta be willing to put yourself out there at that point. You know, if it's something that pop up where there's faces that have never heard your music or people that have never seen you before, you need to be there. You know, I did one of my first shows since COVID the other day, and it just felt good to be back on the stage. So, you know, a lot like people that I hadn't seen before, or, you know, people just, you know, getting my music out and hearing, you know, the DJ who had no clue who I was say, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep your music in rotation. You know, it just hit different rather than, you know, posting your music on the social media for the same, you know, 1,000 people, same 700 people. You know, every time you got something popping up, they like, you know, well, we done heard something, you know, similar to this before. We done heard you put something on here, you know, we ain't trying to see this again. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a difference. You know, if social media didn't exist, I feel like a lot of people's stuff would move in a different manner at that point. You know, like you really got to be willing to go put yourself out there. And if you don't, then you just in that spot where it's like, I guess you just don't want to be heard.
I think it'll go back to where it originally started, DJs. Just like how you said, like the radio. Like technology is not, the technology doesn't necessarily come first, but it does evolve. Like Jeremiah said, like it does evolve with the industry. So people would just go back to, you feel me? Like how you said, going on tour, especially because COVID changed all that. I think COVID really changed how the industry is going to look versus technology, because we've always had technology. We went from tapes to CDs, from CDs to LimeWire, from Line, you know what I mean? That graduation, that evolution always happens, and it's still the same mass consumption. It's still the same thing. I think with COVID though, that live aspect and changing how we interact, like outside of our computers and our phones, I think that will actually change it. So I just think it goes back to the radio. I think the radio will come back in full force as being back to being the main way everybody kind of shared the same music at the same time.
In my current work, I'm still handing out my business card. You know, so, you know, like I did my drum book a few years ago. So I mean, I think that's granted, it's paper, but it's still, but now it's digital. It's on Amazon. But you know, but when you answer that question, that's hard because you look at your TV, you can get all that technology, right? You know, Hulu and Amazon and all that. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of both. I wanted to say something back about the collaboration thing, just real quick. I mean, this other person I met, Amanda, from this other person I learned some like film sync. Today I met her from there, and then today we had there's like this MLC, the MLC.com. It's a mechanical licensing. I heard her like answer a question there. So, you know, I think there's a certain point where, you know, you have to promote yourself, but at the same time, you need to collaborate, like what we're doing now, with ideas and being warm and sharing to a point. You know, I know we all need to you know, promote ourselves, but you know, maybe just my personality way as raised, you know, we need to be able to share what we have with each other.
So what do you feel is the next technological advancement to come to benefit artists?
I feel like the next thing that would come beneficial to artists would probably be, I feel like it wouldn't even be an advancement as far as like social media or anything like that. I feel like social media has kind of hit its peak. You know, where it is right now is probably where it will be, you know, for its longevity's sake. You know, every social media platform now has, you know, implemented stuff from other platforms. Like Twitter had, you know, fleets at one point, and everybody had got that from Snapchat, Insta Story, you know, stuff like that. So I feel like social media has kind of hit its peak, and you can tell because each and every one of them are kind of taking things from each other at this point. So I feel like, you know, that they kind of have hit that pinnacle. I feel like the next advancement in music would more or less be either in music streaming or music software. I'm not sure, you know, which one it would be first, but it's just like I use Studio One, and I started back when they had Studio One 3. I was back in like 2000 and maybe 16 when I started using that. It is 2021, and I am already on Studio One 5. It just came out with that one like, you know, a couple weeks ago. And like when I tell you, I looked at this program and I had to relearn the same program I have been using for years. It just kind of let me know it's like it's not the advancement in music is not where people can see it, because it's not something that y'all work with. It's in our faces, you know, for the people who produce and the people who actually are looking at the screen of you know where the music is actually being made at. Because it took me like 4-5 months to relearn this program, and I still don't know how to use it 100%, but I'm gonna figure it out. But yeah, I feel like the advancement in music is behind the scenes at this point. It's with the people who work with it directly.
Ooh, that's good. Like I agree with you 100%. Like as far as platforms, because like MySpace had everything before everything, and everybody left that. They go to Facebook, and Facebook had less features. You feel me? So I agree with you. Like I don't think it's something that like so I don't think social media is the thing, because it's just going to shift from thing to thing to thing. You know, there's going to be something else out in 2 years or something. But like you said, I think as far as like technology, as far as that, and then also like remote working now is, I think that's might be the next kind of like, it might not be a whole step, but the next kind of half step, like, you know, live sessions remotely with no latency, and, you know, creating music, you know, like we said with Studio One or Ableton or something like that. I think it's going to be like in a DAW setting, like something as far as like a workstation, you know, as far as like the engineering or as far as the recording process. I think that's the next thing, probably.
I think like holograms probably in like 10 years, you know, artists will be able to do shows, you know, in like a hologram way, or, you know, that kind of thing. Because when people were blasting around like your iPod Touch, everybody was like, oh my God, like this is like the last thing. And then we got Spotify and something better. So who knows? It might be brain chips or something.
I think there's some of that hologram stuff out already.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Not on television.
Well, you know, but the 80s, you know, they were starting on VR, but now it's starting to become where the common household could like own it. So,
Yeah, you're talking about like on the independent level, anybody can
exactly. That's what I mean by that.
Well, I used to be a big believer. I don't know if you're gonna bleep this out, but it's facts. I'm just saying facts. So don't get crazy with me. But porn used to be the leader in where I'm serious. I'm so serious.
True.
It used to be the leader in where technology was gonna go. They came out with VR first, for real. They really did. Yeah. And then Oculus took over. So it's this weird phenomenon of wherever this is gonna evolve, it's gonna evolve based on the needs of what people want. Or music software. That I would agree with Lamar. Like the hardware is always going to define kind of like the software, and then the cultural trends of how we consume and how we create. And so since we don't have that outlet anymore that I just mentioned, that I won't mention again, but I do think it's really, like how you said, it's gonna really venture into the whole how we communicate and how clear and crisp it is. So if we keep updating our phones, if we keep updating our cameras, if we keep tinkering with the hardware that we use every day, and the demand is, well, we need, you know, the sound to be better, or whatever the demand will be on a mass level, then the industry is going to shift to what the consumers, or what we're saying, like, well, we need a different type of hardware or software to be able to evolve this to the next level. But I do think the hologram is already a thing. They're doing it in Las Vegas with Whitney Houston, which I think is kind of gross, but it's already like, that's already like a set thing now where they can use your image and you can do a tour and not even.
Well, they had Tupac. They had Tupac was the first, right? I think Tupac was the first.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson.
To kind
Michael
of
Jackson.
yeah, kind of touch on what she just said. You know, as a computer tech, I'm more, you know, involved with the hardware side of computers. So I can honestly sit here and tell you, computers are far more advanced than what the people realize. Like, like if when you actually genuinely sit down and think about it, do you realize what it takes to be a gamer and a streamer at the same time? The amount of output and the amount of work that a computer actually has to do in order for that to be done, but not only be done, but be done in such a like a 4K format
with no latency.
we literally obtain and have things that literally people don't realize how powerful they really are. So it's like we already got the hardware. At this point, it's just like, what does the human mind want to build software wise to utilize that hardware to its fullest potential? At that point, it becomes, it's like, what do I want to sit down and create today to push this to its limits? And I think that is kind of like the question that you have to ask when it comes to where will technology and music end up going.
Yeah, you made a good point, because with even like with the iPhone, how every time the new one comes out, your phone starts messing up. But a lot of times what people don't realize, the new iPhone, only the hardware changes. The same software updates on the new iOS. Your phone, even though they claim, oh, you have to have the newest and latest, it allows you to still access those same things. Like even when they added like augmented reality to the phones, where you could take a picture of something and the picture would kind of like become 3D. Like that's a way that they can turn that kind of into the hologram thing, like you were saying. So yeah, it's definitely going to be the software before the hardware for sure.
I don't know if this relates, but there's a news on LinkedIn where UMG has partnered with some people in China, and you know, I thought that's kind of big news, because like they're gonna have, they have the sub companies, so they're building a lot of stuff over there, and you know, I didn't read the whole thing, but just that thing, like, wow, they're expanding into China. And, I mean, China's like kind of like don't mean to get political here, but they're kind of like a superpower, and they could hurt us. But I don't want to get into it. But I'm just thinking about that, how that UMG going into China can affect and build on a new technology that, you know, in the music industry.
Yeah, they could. 100%.
I mean, it could be the holograms from there. It could be, you know, China doing music here. Or, you know, I don't know. It just, for me, I'm just trying to communicate knowledge to you that we need to keep up not just what's going on in the US, but I know you guys probably do, so I don't assume anything wrong.
Yeah, so thank y'all for a lively conversation. We're getting close to that hour. But I did want to allow everybody to go around again and plug any socials or anything that you want the people on the panel to kind of tap in, so we can all stay connected and do this again, hopefully, and grow it a little bit more. So we can go back in that same order. So starting again with you, Gina.
Well, yes, thank you, Gig Merge, for having me. You know, I really appreciate everything. Keep it up. I love the city out here. It's much love. And I'm not even from here, but I love Ohio and I love Dayton. So special place. You can just catch me on Instagram, Damn Gina, Jena. I'm a photographer, go to Wright State. I'm in their film program. So that's pretty much where I'm at. You can catch my photography, videography, and all that. So DAMNJENA.
All right, Daryl.
All right, first and foremost, you know, shout out to everybody for participating in the panel. You know, it was dope. I enjoyed myself. Shout out to Tiffany and Gig Merge. So yeah, you can follow me at Daryl, DARYL_Watson, on my website, daryl-watson.com. 16 tracks for that ass out. Make sure you go cop it. Anybody looking to collab, make sure you hit the links. That's it.
Trey.
Hey, I'm Tracy Snake. Thank you so much, Gig Merch. Probably the best, you know, way to connect with people. You know, that's what they do best. You can follow me on Tracy Snake on YouTube, Facebook, I got more projects coming soon, and I got a short film dropping the end of this year.
Yeah.
Called The Trash Film. So it's a little, creative project.
Okay, Lamar.
Yeah, appreciate everybody for coming through. Appreciate Tiff for having me again. It's not my first time working with Gig Merger, so I'm very, very happy to be back again. Y'all can find me on all platforms: Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter at Lamar_Toes, last name TLWLES. You can find my music anywhere, Apple, Spotify. It's out there. You go ahead, find it. You can find me on YouTube as well. I got multiple YouTube pages, one for production, I got one for gaming, and I got one for just music. Lamar Toes Gaming, and then Protostar Beats, and then Lamar Toes Music. So
Jeremiah.
Okay, so, it was nice talking to everyone. Thank you to Tiffany for the invite. This is really, really nice. I gotta say that I don't normally have little discussions like this, about music and stuff with other people. So, this was cool. You can find me anywhere, Missing No Music, like how you see the little name, MISSINGNO, Missing No _music. I know we didn't talk about our music personally, but if y'all were to do it, just as a heads up, type of stuff I make is just kind of really like game influenced, still modern style, but real game influenced. So yeah, I hope to, connect with you guys eventually.
Carrie.
Okay. Well, thanks Tiffany for getting me in here and doing this. Nice meeting all you guys and taking a few notes with your names and get back with you. I'm getting more into the film music, so it might be nice to get to know Jenna some more, what she's doing at Wright State. I started there and I transferred all over the place. So I got like 2 masters. So that part of me, I know it's supposed to be our own experience, but I got experience. I gotta share my experience with what I know in school too. So you can type my name, Kerry Kennard, online because my website's in transition, but I got my performance on there, and some of my new music I'm writing for film and is on, it's at soundcloud.com, Kerry-Kennard.
And then Teddy.
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you, Gig Merge, and God bless everybody else on the dais. I encourage everybody to join something called the Union of Musicians and Allied Workers. It's free to join, and it's an initiative that's going to protect us as artists, and maybe one day we can get those streaming rates up. It's an insult to us artists to have a penny per stream as the rate of pay. So that's just one thing. It's just something we can all become more self-empowered. But other than that, I got a couple singles out right now, Maintenance Man and Lay With Me Tonight, going nuts on all platforms and YouTube. And I have a beat store on airbit.com. That's Teddy Ballgame 937 at airbit.com. Some of the hardest beats out. And I just want everybody to succeed. I want us to all succeed in Dayton, like back in the day when Roger Troutman would pass Steve Arrington and pass the Ohio players in their new Jags and Mercedes on Salem Avenue. You know what I mean? So I want everybody to win. God bless everybody.
Yeah, and thank y'all again. Again, my name is Ishmael. I'm a photographer here, but I do videography, podcasting, hosting, social media management, consulting. So anything creative, just get with me. Y'all can find me on social media everywhere at IM_the-ish. Thank you, Tiffany. You got any closing words?
Oh, we are good. We got everything. We got through everything.
Okay, guys,
So
stay blessed.
all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Out there.
Gig merge, when gigs merge, everlasting passion when I give words. Gig merge, when gigs merge, acrobatic crafty when I flip words. Gig merge, when gigs merge, everlasting passion when I give words. Gig merge, when gigs merge, let me show you what it do. Hey. Open mic.